Hey, how are you? Dennis isn't here today, so I'm running the meeting.
Okay, what's your name? Are you
I'm
Grant?
Grant. I'm like
Oh,
the.
okay. Yeah, I don't think we've seen you before, but we've heard you.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, that's me.
Okay. Dan's coming in a few minutes. He had to wrap up a call.
Perfect. I'm glad the meeting room worked. I was afraid it wouldn't, but I think it should be good.
Yeah, we try to show up a little early.
Yeah, we appreciate it. Hopefully, a few people show up today. Some days it's like there's nobody here.
That's true. It's hard. It's hard when you're
Yeah,
running a business and trying to squeeze in growth programs.
exactly.
This is Grant.
Yeah.
Dennis isn't going to be in.
Oh. Right there.
Okay. So what grade are you in? Or what
I'm a
year?
rising junior now. So
Really?
yeah, but I'm excited. I'm a marketing entrepreneurship double major, so staying busy.
And you're at which ECU?
ECU, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
My niece and nephew are in the NC State bioengineering programs.
Oh, really? What year?
I think Catherine is a junior, and I think John I think he's going to be a sophomore. I think a sophomore, maybe.
Okay. That's exciting. Yeah, it's a tough program.
Yeah. Are you liking the program that you're in?
I'm liking it so far. It's a little different than I expected, but it's been good. Keeps me busy, and over summer, anything to stay busy. So
Very true.
Give me a minute. I just want to check in, make sure we just got everything. All right, so she's able to replace the maps.
Well, now you got to hold her up.
Huh?
Apparently, we have Cookie joining us today.
Cookie's here. Cookie's not.
She's a Dotson. She's pure black.
Quite shadowy, isn't she?
She is. She is so dark.
Did you get down?
how old is she?
Probably about 3, right? Right, Cookie?
Cookie wants to join.
She's joining you.
Gotta go, gotta go. Good girl. Okay. All right, yeah, she's all set.
Hey, Tom, how are you?
Hello, how are you?
I'm doing good. Dennis can't be here today, so my name's Grant, and I'm the intern, so I'm going to kind of run the meeting if that's good with you.
Yeah, that sounds good, Grant. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
I'm actually, this may be unconventional, but I'm actually in my vehicle right now.
Oh,
'cause,
wow.
I was out on a job site and so anyway, hopefully you got a good connection and everybody will be able to hear okay.
Yes, sir. It's coming through perfectly on my end, but if
Good.
anyone can't hear him, let me know. Um, And I think we'll just wait like a couple more minutes in case a few other people pop in, but
Yeah, sure.
should be good to go pretty soon. Cool. Do you want to go ahead and get started? I can just let people in that show up late.
Yeah, I can do that. So before I start, can you give me kind of a flavor of what kind of businesses folks have, so I can just get a feel for if they're product or service oriented, what those might be?
Sure. Yeah. Does everyone kind of want to describe it for themselves? Or
Yeah, if everybody can just take 20 seconds, that'd be awesome.
okay. How do we want to do this? Do people just want to kind of jump in?
Or I could just ask them how. We'll start with Rachel. I see Rachel Miller.
Hey, good afternoon.
Hey.
I'm Rachel, this is Dan, and we are in the process of planning out and starting a commercial kitchen. We're going to be calling it either community kitchen or country kitchen. And it's going to be more than just renting kitchen space. It's going to be kind of a jobs incubator as well. So we will train staff so that they can assist new and growing entrepreneurs that are in food and beauty businesses that need commercial space without them having to invest in all the equipment. And we will offer them trained staff.
Very cool. I like it. How about Doug? Doug, I know you from iCore, but
Right.
I'll let you go ahead and jump in. It's good to see you.
Good to see you. I'm doing my martial arts, modular martial arts weapons kit. It's just a product, and I'm waiting on my connectors to get finished so I can proceed with it.
Gotcha. Okay. And is it Quandale?
Yeah, sure. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing good, thank you. Yeah, Quandale Chanel, Freedom Hill brand. We are products. 100% right now online shirts and accessories, as far as caps are concerned. Based upon and rooted in the story of historic Princeville. This is where our story begins, and using that story as an inspirational tool to inspire people to pursue their dreams, follow their goals.
Awesome. I like it. How about Branson?
Hello, Branson Edwards. I'm better known as Big Bougie. I offer services. I do music production, digital content creation, and I own a digital radio station and do a lot of digital promotion stuff. So I guess I fall in the lines of services.
Gotcha. Sounds cool.
Thank you.
And Catherine.
Hi, so we make dancewear, we make custom and ready to ship products, and we make leotards and tops. We're currently working to expand to youth sizes and plus sizes.
Okay. Awesome. So I'll give you a little background on me, just to kind of got a flavor of who I am. My name's Tom Morse. I was sitting in your shoes in regards to this program anyway. Just a few months ago, I went through the previous session of this ARNC, which is a really awesome program. And, I learned a lot, made a lot of great connections. And I hope that what I can show you today, that you get something out of it that's of value. Dennis actually asked me to talk about projections and, you know, kind of my business is it's a sanitary toilet plunger. And so I quit my job last July. This is a product that I developed over the past couple of years. And I decided to kind of just take a leap of faith and commercialize this and dedicate my time to it. And I've been in the product development business, new product development for 20 plus years, mainly with other companies and corporations. And I thought, you know what, I'm tired of them kind of making all the money off of my efforts. So I want to bring it in house, and probably underestimated what that was going to entail, and but have learned a lot along the way. I've met a lot of great people, and as I was going through my financials, I'd asked Brady Hillhouse, who was one of the previous interns. I don't know if he's still involved or not. I think he graduated. I asked him to review my financials, and it kind of went from there, where Dennis asked me to talk about projections. And so what I'd like to do is share my screen if I can. Are you able to give me that ability?
Yeah, does it not say you can?
It says host disabled participant screen sharing.
Okay. I should be making you a co-host now.
Okay.
That fix anything?
Yep. Okay, so I'm going to share this screen right here. Okay, so I think I'm sharing a spreadsheet. Are you all able to see this spreadsheet?
Yes.
Okay. So the first thing I'd like to say is, whether or not you have a service business or whether or not it's a product, don't get caught up in the details of, hey, Tom's got a product here, so it doesn't apply to me. There's a lot of details here. I'm actually, I will share this with Dennis where he can share it with you guys. Some of the numbers in here I've changed because obviously it's sort of proprietary information of my product, but it still kind of all flows together. And this is what I'll say is a projection is, let me ask you guys, what do you guys think a projection is relative? If we just say, talk to me about projections for your business. What do you think that means?
Future revenues that you project from past revenues.
Okay. That's good. Anybody else?
Basically just an educated guess based on history, possibly marketing responses, and an estimated future goal.
Okay. Yeah, I like that. And so I'm going to elaborate on that. I say that it's sort of your best estimate with the best information you have at the time you create the projections. And it's certainly not a static exercise. It's something that, honestly, I've probably revised my projections 20 times in the past 9 months. And it's because I'll learn a piece of information, I'll find something out, I'll adjust it, I'll modify it. I use this from everything on to try to look at what my profit margins are going to be, to deciding whether I want to spend money on advertising, if I need to spend money on equipment, or if I have a limited amount of money, which of those do I want to spend that on? And so I'll kind of walk through at least what I did for my product, and then and ask you guys if you have any questions. And then, like I said, I'm willing to send this out and you can kind of adapt it for your own use, or I'd be glad to answer questions or help you out after this session's over if you kind of want to walk through things. I'm going to start off. There's actually 3 tabs on this spreadsheet down at the bottom. I'm going to start off on the far right on raw materials. So my product is a variety of components that I buy and or manufacture. In the case of Doug, where he has a third party making his connector, on the plunger that I make, I'm actually 3D printing my connectors. Totally different product. I'm able to do that. And but most of everything else I purchase in some type of raw material state, and then I do the assembly myself at this point. And so I have a tab on here that shows raw materials. And it's really what you'll see is I kind of break it down by, these are all the different things highlighted kind of in bold boxes, bags, zip ties, handle cap. And you can see I kind of break things down by quantities or sizes. One of the things with my product is there was no history. I was just launching this thing from ground zero and really had no background on how much, what does the price point need to be on this? What are people willing to pay for it? I did a lot of interviews with folks, thought that I knew what those price points were. People will tell you a lot of things, but then when you get them to try to part with their money, it's often a different story. And so I've had to kind of go through and sort of optimize and change my strategy over time. So my original strategy was I didn't want to lose money on any plunger that I sold. And I'd buy in enough quantities that I'd be able to get the unit costs down enough, the unit costs, so that I could sort of keep that, keep some margin on there. What I've had to do is adapt a little bit and say, well, I don't care about making money as much as I care about breaking even, because I just realized there's going to be some challenges. And I don't mean long-term, I'm just talking short-term, trying to get supply chains established and things of that nature. So you'll see where I've gone through, and in your case, it might not be boxes, it might be, it might be utensils, it might be food, it might be utilities. There's a lot of different things that could go into your particular product. But what I try to do is break it down to what the unit cost is of each component that goes into my product. So you can see, for instance, boxes. I have a couple of different options here. If I buy 200 or 500 at a time, I'm at a unit cost of 88 cents. If I buy 250 at a time, I'm at a unit cost of 96 cents. One thing I'd like to point out that I've seen happen many times over my career with materials, and whether it's food items or products, is this line item right here for freight can often be a very large expense that often gets overlooked. And whether it's freight coming in, where you're having things delivered to your facility or warehouse, or whether it's stuff that you're shipping out, don't underestimate or neglect what freight costs. So for instance, if you look here on this quantity of 500 boxes, the subtotal, just the price of the boxes, is $225. I have almost as much in freight for that. And so, when I look at sort of what I call the landed cost, or the actual cost of that, it's really, when I take the freight into account, it's double of what it would have been if I ignored the freight. And that can turn out to be a big number, especially nowadays with COVID. Freight is going through the roof on a lot of products. So just be aware of that as you're maybe going through your analysis. I'm not going to go through every one of these, but you'll have this sort of as an example of where I've gone through and looked at various quantities and unit costs. There's one I'll show you here on this handle, where if I order a quantity of 150, my unit cost is $1.66. If I order a quantity of 10,000, my unit cost is $1.52. And so my unit cost isn't substantially different. But if you look at the cost that I have, the cash that I have to outlay to buy 150 versus 10,000, the difference is almost $15,000. And so right now I'm buying small quantities just because I don't want to outlay that much cash at this point and tie up all of my working capital. So that's another reason. It's another way you can use this tool or something like that to make decisions about what do you want to do with your cash, what kind of quantities do you want to buy in, and how does it impact your overall cost. So before I kind of jump to the next section, are there any questions relative to what I have here or about what I'm talking about? Anybody? Just jump on if you do. Okay. So then what I've done is I've taken and I've looked, my next tab here is assembly and labor. Again, if you don't have a product, it doesn't mean that you wouldn't necessarily have things in this category. It may just be classified differently. For instance, if you are bringing in materials, supplies, food, whatever that might be, you may have money tied up in not just product, but you got to unpackage that product, or maybe you have to repackage that product. Those are things that are costing you money. In the case of t-shirts, you may be buying those in bulk. You know, they may come in and there's a cost to receiving those, unpacking them, sorting them. And if you're like me, you may be doing a lot of that work right now, but as your business grows and scales, that's something you need to take into consideration, because you may have somebody, you may need to have a part-time person there, a full-time person that's unloading a truck and putting stuff in inventory and counting inventory and those types of things. And so those are things you can build into your model as time goes on. So in this case, for plungers, what I've done is I've based everything on a quantity of 10,000. This is sort of my best case scenario, even though I'm not buying in quantities of these type of quantities right now. And you can see I've taken all of those things that were under raw materials and I've laid them out here in the left-hand column. And I just basically extended what the cost was. So this unit cost comes from this other sheet that I had, this raw materials sheet, and I'm getting an extended cost on all that stuff. So basically I've got a total material cost for 10,000 plungers. Here's basically what one unit costs, $1.40 in materials. Again, I've massaged these numbers. These aren't my actual numbers because I don't want to give out all of my financials, but you get the idea of what I'm trying to do here. And then I've got a labor number in here. And my labor number comes from further down. I think can you all see this page where it says labor across here? Okay. I've gotten my labor is down below this line here, and I'll show you kind of where this number came from. Because it's a big component of the cost, or a fair fraction of the cost. And then I've got another component that goes with my plunger called grunge guards. They're essentially plastic bags. And so I've got some labor and materials here on what it costs to put those together and package those. And then basically I add those two together to get my unit cost for one of my units. So how did I get labor? Again, it's a lot of educated guessing based on information that I know at the time. I don't know so if you can see here, I based everything on a $15 an hour labor rate. And you know, keep in mind, you may not be paying somebody $15 an hour. You may be paying somebody minimum wage, but then you're also going to have to pay some, you know, Social Security taxes and some other things that are going to add on top of that. And so you need to make sure you're kind of baking that into your labor rate. And so right now I'm just using $15 an hour. And then I've gone through and actually on my product, and a lot of you could do this on your product, even if you're just repackaging things. If you're ordering bulk materials and then repackaging them or printing them, you can kind of go through this exercise. So I actually went through the exercise of building 10 plungers. So you see, I say quantity timed. I built 10, and I just basically did a time study. I just kept track of how long does it take to do this. I did all these different unit operations here. I need to cut a slot. I have to deburr a slot. I clean a handle. I add a cap. So all the things that it takes to do that work to build 10 plungers, I've calculated that total amount of time here. And so I multiply that, my total minutes against my labor rate up here. And so I get a total cost per so cutting slots, it cost me 83 cents, to deburr slots. And basically I just go through and sum everything up to get my total cost. Now there were some things I didn't know at the time. So I made a note here that these are estimated times. I knew I had to put a label on a handle. I didn't have labels yet. I knew it had you got to erect boxes, and all those might seem like trivial things, But you can imagine, taking one box and folding up one box doesn't seem like that big a deal. But if I told you to do 10,000 of them, that takes a lot of time. And so, you've got to kind of build that into what your cost is going to be, what you think your projected cost is going to be. Again, you go back to the same thing. If you were ordering, Doug, if you were ordering materials and you're getting 2 pallet loads of materials in, and by the time you cut the boxes open and sort them out or do whatever you have to do, you may have a half a day worth of time in there, and you certainly want to at some point get that plugged into your cost model. And so I just kind of went through all of these things to determine what my total labor was going to be going into that product. Another thing I'll point out is this efficiency. We like to think we're all 100% efficient, but the reality is that, you have to stop and get a drink or take a phone call or go to the bathroom or just take a break. We might work 8 hours, but it's not 8 hours always of productive time. And so you can kind of figure out what you think that is of downtime. In my case, it's if I'm building my own product, sometimes I got to go get supplies off the shelf and cut the boxes open and get them ready. And all of that eats into the actual manufacturing time. And so while I'm doing that, I'm not building product. And so I apply an 80% efficiency to my productivity. Over the years, I've seen that that's a reasonable number. Sometimes usually it's not less than this. It might be 85%. I think there's very few companies that are above 85. So the way I apply that is when I total up and get my unit cost, you divide by the efficiency, and that sort of gives you your final unit cost. So this is my labor cost, about $1.47 to do all the labor associated with making one toilet plunger. Now what I've done is all of this is coded so that I can easily go in and change the labor rate. If I change my labor rate to $10 an hour, you can see my unit cost turns out to be 98 cents. So as things are changing and I'm looking at different scenarios, there's only a few numbers that I sort of have to tweak in my model, and everything recalculates, and I'm able to go in and kind of make some quick assumptions or decisions on how I want to move forward based on the information I have. There's some additional just time study stuff that I did here on the bags, on the sleeves. And this is where I'm looking at having multiple quantities, a 5-pack, 10-pack, 20-pack, that type of thing. So this number that you see here for labor, that's what ultimately gets put back up in this number right here. And then I've got a separate labor number over here for what are called my grunge guards or my bags. So that's how I get my total unit cost of my product. So it's materials, labor, efficiencies, kind of all that stuff built into this here. So any questions on this or comments on this, how I might have gotten to these numbers, how they may
Yeah,
apply to you?
I've got
Yep.
one. The
Sure.
efficiency, did you just plug that in, or do you have a formula that calculates that for you?
No, I just plugged that in, Doug. If nobody's 100% efficient, and I've been in manufacturing for 25 years, and that number's always treated me well. My thought is always this: if I put 80% efficiency in there, if it's less than that, I'm probably not doing my job and making sure that my team has what they need to build the components and be efficient. If it turns out that my team, which is me right now, but if with a larger team, if they could get to 90, that just drops my cost and makes it even better. And so what I've tried to do when I put these projections together is look at what I think is kind of a worst case scenario, but still a reasonable worst case scenario, if that makes sense.
All right, thank you.
Sure. Other comments or questions?
In my other business, we use Excel very, very extensively.
Yes.
Have you thought about including a line for staging? Because you were speaking of the downtime in between.
Absolutely. So what I can tell you is that conceptually, I know I have all of these other things that sort of need to be done. And this has sort of been an evolution. I don't have every detail in here now. There are some things in here, and to some who haven't ever done this before, all of this might look really overwhelming. It's definitely I think you bring up a great point, and I think that and you'll see one of the things as we get into sort of my month-to-month projections, I look at what my estimated labor force needs to be. And part of what I would do from an operations perspective is say, hey, maybe we just need somebody staging materials, and maybe it's the same person that's assembling the boxes can be the same person that's also staging materials, and we can share labor that way, and figure out, and you can use this as a tool to figure out sort of where are those areas where you need to apply additional labor. But that's a great point. Or it may be that you can bring in, it may be that if you get shipments in every Tuesday, that you have a part-time person that comes in every Tuesday and helps sort of get things unloaded, offloaded, and maybe staged for the next week. So it's somebody that's business specific, but it's a great point. You can build this out as much as you want with as much detail as you want.
One thing I found, and this is just for everyone else, is YouTube is a surprisingly good resource for learning how to use Excel. So sometimes we'll get into really complicated formulas, and I've read the Excel notes or community forums, and it's just confusing versus kind of seeing it on YouTube. So that's always one thing I do a lot.
Yeah, it's a great point. There are a lot of equations in here. Again, I'm willing to help anybody out. If you look at this and get into it, want some guidance or pointers, I'd be glad to try to help you out or steer you in the right direction. Other comments, questions on this? Okay, so then we sort of I've got unit cost here. Now we're going to transition to sort of what my monthly projections look like. And this thing probably looks like an eye chart. I'm gonna split some cells here. Just a second here. Try to blow this up where you guys can actually see this. So can you guys see this okay? Is that legible and large enough for you guys to see?
Yes.
Okay. So one thing is, I am not an accountant, I'm an engineer, but I've looked at enough profit and loss statements over the years to kind of lay things out in that manner, because I do think profit and loss statements are a tool, and they would have a lot more detail than what you see here, but I think this kind of gives you a general flavor for things. And so what I want to do is kind of go through some information that I have up at the top here, and then I'll walk you through kind of what one of my months looks like, or what multiple months looks like. So one of the things about my product is that I sell my product in a 1-pack, a 2-pack, or a 3-pack. And again, when you're thinking about freight, the cost to ship one product, actually, I'm going to jump back to this other page here real quick. I'm going to show you some things I did. You may run into a similar situation. It might be similar with t-shirts. It could be similar with some of the stuff you're doing, Doug. I'm just trying to think about how this stuff applies. So here I kind of did this analysis on freight. And again, I'm looking at toilet plungers. I sell 1 in a pack, 2 in a pack, or 3 in a pack. And so I looked at shipping to the West Coast. So I looked at Los Angeles. I looked at Philadelphia, and I looked at I grew up in a small town in the Midwest in Illinois called Momence, and I looked at Momence. I felt like these three sort of regions would be representative of what it would cost to ship a product across the country. And for each of these locations, I looked at whether it was a 1-pack, a 2-pack, or a 3-pack. So I knew what my weight was on my product. My store is on Shopify, so I'm able to go in and look at weights and freight costs and all of that and determine what the cost was to ship these products. And so you can see that to ship a quantity of 1 to Los Angeles, at least on 9/15, it's probably gone up since then, was $12.10. To ship a pack of 3 was $14.62. So just because I was shipping 3 times as much doesn't mean that the freight went up by a factor of 3. You can see in Philadelphia, it ranged from $8.56 to $9.41, and in Momence from $9.45 to $12.55. The reason I'm telling you this is because one of the, Amazon's kind of ruined it for everybody with the 2-day free shipping, Prime, and all that kind of stuff. And everybody expects that now. And so I wanted to offer free shipping with my product. So it's a challenge because if I was shipping everything to Philadelphia, I'd only be charging $9 for shipping. But if things go out to Los Angeles, it could be $15 in shipping. And so what I did is I looked at a 2-pack and said, I'm just going to use that sort of as a basis for what my freight is going to be. And that might be something that I have to adjust in the future as I learn more and kind of see where my sales go. And so this is where I kind of did a detailed analysis on freight. And so when I come back to this other page, you'll see I've highlighted in green here that this is the basis for my pricing. The cost of my product in this case is $26.97. Freight is $12, so my total is $38.97. I've got a price of $55.99 or a 44% margin on that product. So this is sort of what I used for the basis of everything here. I've done some work running some ads on, I did some ads on Facebook. I've done some ads on Google and have an idea of what it costs to land a customer. So sort of, what does it cost to get somebody from a Google ad, clicking on my ad to get them to land on my website? It's somewhere around the 40 to 50 cent range, okay? I also know that everybody that comes to my site, I don't get 100% of those people buying a product. I get somewhere between 3 and 5% that'll actually buy a product. And so these two metrics, or actually this conversion metric, goes into some of my advertising assumptions that you'll see below. And then I got some more information on bags, costing on bags here. And then I sort of flow down to my month-to-month stuff. So silence this here. So what I've done is I'll start in the month of April. I'm gonna actually drag this up here. I'm gonna start in the month of April. So I made an assumption I'd sell 100 units in the month of April. And based on that $55.99 price basis that I had up here in the upper right, that would be $5,599 worth of revenue. So it's just this 100 multiplied by that $55.99, or there would be my total revenue. And what I looked at for my product, I sell plungers and I sell bags. The bags are typically a refill. And so people wouldn't start buying those until they used up what came with the original product. So I don't show any bag sales sort of for the first 6 months because I know people are using the product and using those bags up. And then I've got what are called the cost of goods. So the cost of goods of my plunger is this quantity of plunger units right here, 100 per month, multiplied by this $26.97, which is my unit cost, which came back from my other page. So I know I'm going to sell $55.99, but it's going to cost me $26.97 just in product, just in materials. Then I've assumed $12 a unit for freight. So it's $12 times the 100 that I sold. I've got to pay Shopify some fees, a 2.9% fee and a 30 cent per unit fee. That's what those two numbers are. And then there's this advertising and web number. And so what I've done, this advertising and web number here is a calculated number. So based off of selling 100 units, knowing that it costs 40 cents to get a person to my web page, and knowing that it's going to take 5.3% of those converting to sell 100 units, this is my estimate on what I have to spend on ads that month. Now, this is something that is, nobody tells you this when you start. It's something you sort of have to figure out what you think your ad spend is going to have to be. And then once you start working on that ad spend, you can sort of start to tweak this. So in this case, I need to spend $750 in order to gain those 100 customers, sell those products. So that's part of my cost. So I total up all these expenses. My total cost is $4,800. If you'll remember back up here, my total sales was $55.99. So the difference on there is $754. That's my profit for that month. And then I just sort of look at this cumulatively, month to month. How much am I making? How much have I added? Sort of the difference month to month, or this is a cumulative number. So I'm saying the month of April, I'd make $754. In the month of May, this number in May is the sum of April and May. June is April, May, June. So I can just kind of see what the trend is for my business at that time. Before I go into this, any questions on anything I've shown there or talked about there? Is that highly confusing? Makes sense? So the other thing I looked at was, you'll see there's some things I don't have filled in here. If you look at these quantities, 100 plungers, 110, these are relatively small quantities. They're quantities that I can manufacture on my own without any help, without a lot of overhead. But I've got placeholders you'll see over here for travel, rent on a facility, utilities. When I get to the point that I need a foreman, somebody for bookkeeping, a customer service rep, none of those are filled in right now because I don't need any of that right now. But I also use this spreadsheet as a tool to look at my man days of production. And so if you look at this number right here, E51, I want to make sure I'm showing you the right thing. So it's E51, it's 100. I've sold 100, and I know that I can make 80 in a day. So I've just divided 100 by 80 so that I get 1.3. That's how many days it's going to take me to be able to make 100 of those plungers. And I use this to look at what's happening with my labor over time. So this is the month of April, May, June. So you can see as I sell more, up here to selling 200 in the month of December, it's going to take me 2.7 days to make all of that. So this helps me to make estimations of, am I going to need to hire labor? And in that case, maybe I need to rent a facility instead of doing this out of my garage. Maybe I'll get to the point where I need to hire a foreman. And so you can see for 22, let me go down to like 2023. So 2023, you know, I've got almost 9 days of production for one person. And so if I'm trying to go out and sell and run a business, I'm not going to be able to take 9 days a month to manufacture product. So at some point prior to this, I'm going to probably be hiring some folks or find somebody to make this product for me. So I use this to look at capacities, what my manufacturing capacity is, and make decisions on what do I need to do? Am I going to need to hire help? Rachel brought up staging earlier. You know, if staging becomes a big issue, it might be that, hey, I might be able to do all this in 6 days, but it takes 2 days to stage things. So maybe I bring somebody in to help me do that. So there are different ways you can look at this depending on what your business is, trying to determine where to best use your labor and how much labor you might need in order to accomplish that. The other thing that this shows is that, I'll show it up here, kind of show how this works. So right now, the rubber cups that are on the bottom of a plunger, I source those from a company right now that gets them from overseas. And the lead time on them is very, very long, like 4 to 6 months. And so I have to use this as a tool to understand what's happening to my supply over time, because obviously I don't want to run out of that product. I don't want to be in a situation where I'm selling 500 a month and then I don't have enough product on hand. So that's sort of what this yellow part is here. And you could do this for every component that you have. But in my case, the other ones I know that I can receive in a week or two, and I'm not too concerned about them. This one is a long lead time. So in this case, I show, here's my current balance. I've got 500 on hand. As I sell, you can see as I sell, so I've got 400, and then I sell 110 of them. This month I sell 110. I'm going to be down to 290. I've already got 275 on order. I'm ordering 275 this month. It turns out that the guy has them in his warehouse, so I'm going to get them shipped right to me. So I'll receive 275 that month, which will give me 444 left at my site that month. I also show that I'm going to have $900 outlay of cash when I buy those 275. But I know that I got to turn around and order 444 is only a few months supply when I'm selling 100 per month or 120 per month. So I'm turning around next month and I'm ordering 1,000 more. Now those are coming from overseas. So you can see I'm not receiving those till back here somewhere, almost November. So I'm ordering them in June, I'm getting them in November, but I got to pay for them up front. So I've got $3,300 of cash going out next month to buy these 1,000 components that I'm not receiving until November. And so I use this so to kind of keep track of what that inventory and when do I think I'm going to have to order and what's happening to my cash, because these are fairly low quantities. You can see as I get a couple years, and this will change, right? I mean, these are all estimations, projections of what my sales look like, but pretty soon I'm going to be ordering 3,000 at a time. And then I'll order 3,000 a couple times a year or 6,000 a couple times a year. Here I'm ordering 9,000. So it helps me to look at how much cash do I need to have on hand? What are my inventories look like? If I start looking at my sales and I've projected 100 units a month per sale up here, and all of a sudden it starts going up to 200-300, it's going to raise a red flag to me down here that, hey, I might run out of product here. I need to be figuring out, do I need a second source? Do I need to order these sooner? So you just need to take things like that are relative to your business, especially those critical components that might have long lead times, and sort of track those so you don't run into a situation where you're without product. Or it also helps you to manage your cash. I might not want to outlay $27,000 down here at one time. So instead of ordering 9,000 at one time, I may order 3,000 3 months in a row or something of that nature. Spread that cash out. So questions on that? Okay. I've gone through a lot here. Any other thoughts or comments? Has this been helpful? Not so beneficial?
Hey, Tom, it's Rachel. I do think it's helpful, especially reminding me about the ads, because that's with my current business, everything is word of mouth. We don't advertise at all, and we do that purposely. So
Yep.
that's something new that we're learning about. So it's a good reminder to include that in costs.
Yeah, there's a on the ads. I'm no expert on this. Have you guys, has Warren Allen presented to you guys yet?
I think so. Yeah. Yeah. I think I think I missed that day actually.
Okay. So Warren Allen he really got me stimulated for ads on Google, and I've done a lot of research on ads, and I've been mildly successful at some of that. I actually have a few keywords that I actually rank number 1, 2, and 3 for 3 different keywords. The problem with that is there's no volume on any, nobody searches for those keywords, so it doesn't drive a lot of traffic to my site. But one of the things that an acronym that's used in ads is called ROAS or ROAS, and it means return on ad spend. So if you look at, and I don't have it shown on here, I should actually add that. If you look at the ads, in this case, trying to get back to where I was up here, kind of where I'm at today. So in this case, $700 spent on ads brings $5,500 in revenue. And so you would divide this total revenue by this advertising dollars you spent. That would be called your return on ad spend. So for every dollar I spend in ads, it's around a factor of 7.5, it looks like. So for every dollar I spend in ads, I bring in $7.5 worth of revenue. And so that's a way to sort of, I'll say, normalize this. Yeah, $7.42. So for every dollar I spend in ads, I'm driving $7.42 in revenue. And if everything else in my model is correct, this will remain profitable. And then all I've got to do to increase, what I end up doing to increase the sales then is just spend more on my ads. And if I spent double this, theoretically, the number of sales should double. But right now I'm trying to determine what my keywords are and kind of hone that model. And so just keep that in mind. If you do, the YouTube is a great resource, Rachel, you mentioned earlier. There's a lot of good things on there on Google Ads, return on ad spend, but it's one of those that you'll definitely want to plug in. There's another one I'll point out that is not shown on here that you need to make sure is included in your model, and it's sales tax. You as a retailer or e-commerce store, you've got to pay sales tax. Now, the reason I don't show it on mine, I should, technically I should show it on here. The numbers that you're seeing on here, like this $55.99, that's what I charge for those products if you go to my website to buy it. Then Shopify, on top of that, they add the tax onto that, and they bill the customer that additional 7%, or if you're in Pitt County, 7% sales tax. There'd be another $3.50 of $3.60 or something that would be allocated to this. That should show on my revenue as income, and it should show as an expense, so it sort of nets each other out. Just don't forget to include that. There may be, because of the way Shopify does it, I don't show it on here, but if you're doing a store, a brick and mortar, you're going to want to make sure you're including sales tax in yours as well.
One more thing, in North Carolina, I think it's if you have 4 or more employees, including the owner, you have to have workers' comp.
Yeah, I'm not there yet. It's a good point. And the other thing right now, honestly, the $15 an hour, when I put it in there originally, it was really around, hearing about the minimum wage might go to $15 an hour. The minimum wage hasn't even made it there yet, and it's still really hard to find people. And so, part of what I might even look at doing, and there's options out there, is to go to a temporary agency, a one source or manpower or something like that, where you can hire temporary employees. And then they can handle some of that stuff for you, the payroll and some of that those other types of things. But there's a cost associated with doing that as well.
Hey, I neglected, Tom, neglected to mention that I use Shopify as well as my platform. And one of the things you touched on is what I'm exploring now is the free shipping. And also, from my perspective, for where I am adding discount codes as well. So
Yep.
yeah, that helped.
Definitely. I've added some discount codes. You know, I've given out product. I've given away product to just get some feedback on. You know, I look at that as it's sort of like a marketing cost, right? Discount codes, you can use those if you've got something that, you know, I had a lady, her order somehow it got canceled within Shopify. I'm sure I did something wrong. I don't know what I did. She emailed me and, you know, I went in and just credited her whole invoice. And because I just want to make sure I've got a happy customer. I don't want a bad review out there. And
Right.
so, you know, there's a lot of options relative to that. And if you're doing a lot of discount stuff, you could actually build that into your model here, right? It could be one of your costs is, hey, you're giving, you know, 20% of your people, you're giving a 10% discount to. You can sort of model all that if you want to do that, include it in this type of analysis. So
Thanks.
sure. Other comments or questions? All right. I think you all got a few minutes left. If there's nothing else, I will send this to Dennis and I'll have him include my contact information. And if y'all have any questions about this or want to know how I got something or want some feedback on what you're doing, I'd be happy to try to help y'all out.
Great, thank you.
All right. Thank you. I hope y'all have a great day.
Thank you. Do
Thank
the
you.
same.
Sure thing.
Thanks, Tom.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Quindell,
Yes.
need to link up, man.
Indeed. You know, I was thinking about that when you were speaking earlier. That's had a couple of challenges because I work full time, but you're definitely on my radar.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Especially you being a coffee lover. We need to get chat over a cup of coffee.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I heard it was a spot up there in Rocky Mount area. What's the name of that spot?
I think you're talking about Lorema. It's called
Yep.
close to the Chill Spot, which is a Jamaican restaurant.
Yep.
Yeah.
You just let me know what your schedule is, and I'll gas up the Jeep and shoot that way.
Sounds, man, that would be wonderful. Sounds great.
Hi,
Yes,
everyone.
sir. Hey, Rachel.
Hey. I will catch you guys tomorrow.
All right.
There's no
All
class
right.
tomorrow, actually.
Oh, there's nothing tomorrow?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, I should have mentioned that. It was in the email, but I should have said that at the beginning of class.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, no
Be in
problem. Have a
touch,
good one.
Branson.
All right.
All right. Thanks, guys.